When my father passed away, life in Cedar Grove came to a sudden, painful halt. It was as if the very air had thickened, making each breath a struggle. I could still hear his laughter echoing in my mind, the sound rich and warm like the sun filtering through the leaves in our backyard. That familiar smell of cedar wood mixed with fresh-baked cookies wafted through my nostrils, and for a moment, I could close my eyes and pretend he was still here, sitting across from me at the dining table, his smile as bright as the morning sun. But reality always tugged at my heart, reminding me that he was gone, leaving behind an emptiness that gnawed at my insides. After the funeral, life spiraled into a haze of grief. The world outside moved on, but I felt frozen in place, unable to shake the numbness that permeated my bones. The funeral flowers sat in a wilting heap on the kitchen table, vivid reminders of that day when I had to say goodbye. My gaze lingered on them, and for a moment, I wished I could bury them and all the other painful reminders beneath the earth just as we had buried him. But the flowers would stay, a lingering testament to a loss I couldn't quite comprehend. As the days passed, I moved through my routine like a ghost. I cleaned, cooked, and tried to connect with my brothers, but it felt like there was a glass wall separating us, one that grew thicker and more impenetrable with each passing moment. It wasn't until I found myself searching for an old cookbook in my mother's drawer that my life took a turn I never expected. Instead of the dog-eared pages I searched for, I stumbled upon something shocking, a series of bank statements. My heart raced as I laid the papers against the wooden surface, their crispness stark against the aging oak. I started to read. The numbers jumped off the page, striking me with the force of a thunderclap. $200,000, life insurance claim. Just like that, my father's absence transformed from mere pain into an aching betrayal. I couldn't believe it. His life had been filled with hard work and not a hint of extravagance. Yet here was the evidence of a hidden life, a life my family lived without me, one that promised luxury while I was left out in the cold. I felt like a castaway abandoned on an island, watching the ship of my family sail farther away. I stumbled back against the wall, cold and unyielding, as the truth settled in. My family had been indulging in luxury, flaunting new cars and whispering about properties, while I remained blissfully unaware, like an artist painting a landscape only to discover it's covered in a layer of fog. The fog cleared for a moment as I recalled the moments when my brothers had casually mentioned their new cars, the excitement in their voices, and the way my mother had draped herself in lavish fabric, boasting about how the new house had everything anyone would ever dream of. Each excited chatter felt like daggers to my gut, cutting deeper into the trust I had in them. "Amelia," my mother called, her voice echoing lightly through the hallway. I didn't respond. I was too consumed by the chaos of emotions swirling in my chest. The draw of anger simmered beneath the surface, mixing with betrayal and confusion, all telling me that something had to be done, that answers were needed. "Amelia, honey, are you in there?" Her voice was cheerful, too much so, as I watched my own reflection in the hallway mirror, a ghostly figure with tear-streaked cheeks and eyes puffy from sleepless nights. I opened the drawer again, rifling through the statements as if the more I read, the clearer the truth would become. A hidden life. That was what this was, deception wrapped in silver ribbons of deceit. "Mom," I shouted, the anger slipping through my lips before I could stop it. "We need to talk." The words echoed off the walls, landing heavily in the air. She appeared almost instantly, the door creaking open as if she had been waiting just outside. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Her mask of patience was almost unbearable. I wanted to scream, to shout the words that clawed at my throat. "Play coy with me," I said, my voice barely a whisper, trembling on the edge of a cliff of unresolved feelings. I pointed to the papers strewn across the table, my heart racing as I locked eyes with her. "What is this?" Her eyes flickered to the papers, and an unsettling smile spread across her face as if I had just shared a delightful joke. "Oh, those old things, just some paperwork." She waved a dismissive hand, as though they were mere napkins instead of the very documents that shattered the image of our family. "Some paperwork. Mom, this is a life insurance claim. $200,000. You didn't think I would find out about this." I struggled to contain the rising tide of fury within. "Oh, Amelia," she laughed, her voice laced with a mix of amusement and condescension, a laugh that echoed the roots of betrayal. "What's important is how we should move forward from here. You know how these things go. Your father wanted us to live comfortably, While I was left out of the will, out of this life you kept hidden from me. I spat, each word sending sharp pain through my heart. You acted as if everything was fine, while I was the only one who had no idea you were all living it up without me. I thought you were dealing with your loss in your own way, she replied, frustration creeping into her tone. You were always wrapped up in your own world. I didn't think you'd care about these things. Care? You think I don't care? My fists tightened at my sides, trembling with frustration. How could you think I wouldn't care when you all conspired to shut me out of my father's memory? Do you really believe it's a conspiracy? Her laugh was sharper now, cracking under the pressure of anger. Your father was gone. Life goes on, Amelia. We did what we had to do to live. To live or to thrive. It's easy to move on when you're swimming in money while I'm holding on to memories and pieces of a past that feel tainted now. My voice broke, tears brimming in my eyes. I wanted answers, not dismissive remarks wrapped in a comforting tone. You think I wanted to hurt you? Do you really believe I would do that? She asked, her voice turning icy, cutting through the heated room like a sharp knife. I don't know what you want anymore. I screamed, frustration boiling over. You all act like you're in a new life, flaunting your good fortune while I'm here, forgotten and alone. It feels like I'm in a house full of strangers. My mother was silent, her expression hardening as her facade began to crumble. The warmth of the kitchen was now overshadowed by an unbearable tension that seemed to seep from the walls. You think I haven't grieved your father? Her voice was barely above a whisper, but there was a steeliness beneath it. What do you want me to do, Amelia? Mourn forever? He would have wanted us to move on. Moving on doesn't mean erasing me from the equation, I said softly, tears spilling over as I felt the weight of betrayal settle heavily on my heart. You and my brothers being the only ones to benefit from this hidden life feels like a stab in the back. Your brothers are adults, Amelia. They have their lives to manage now. And who says you won't get something down the line? It doesn't help that you laugh in my face when I'm desperate for answers, I said, my voice low but resolute. It feels like you've buried me too beneath all this wealth and deception. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with unspoken words and unresolved conflicts. I could feel the chill in the air as my mother's defenses wavered. Perhaps she was realizing the depth of the rift between us, or perhaps it was merely the crumbling walls of her carefully crafted denials. I can't keep pretending everything is fine, I told her, conviction mixing with the despair within me. If you can live this way, then maybe I need to find my way too. I cannot be your shadow anymore, watching as you enjoy a life that's built on my father's legacy while I stand in the dark corner. Her eyes widened, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of understanding beneath the layers of betrayal. Yet instead of compassion, there was a smirk painted across her lips, an empty echo of laughter. The dismissal felt like knife-like words slicing through the tapestry of family and hope. You think you have the right to make demands now, she sneered. What do you know about the sacrifices I made? I know what I've lost, what my father worked for. My voice wavered, trembling with emotion. I'm tired of being shattered by your choices. Not responsible for your feelings, she snapped back, the steel creeping back into her voice. You need to toughen up. Life isn't fair. And what about family? I asked, desperation pooling in my throat like bitter medicine. Does that not count for anything? But she simply shrugged, as if our connection were mere threads she could pull apart without a care. I felt the sting of her laughter, and the burning desire to break free from the confines of this twisted luxury they indulged in without me. I turned away, tears slipping down my cheeks as rage roared to life in my chest. The echoes of grief tumbled through me as I stood there, a ghost in my own house, a mere shadow cast aside by the very people I once believed would stand by me. But now, all I felt was a hollow ache of betrayal, as deep and dark as the void my father had left behind. And in that moment, bitterness bloomed like a flower in my heart, making me wonder if revenge would be my only path to reclaiming that bruised piece of my father's legacy as days turned into weeks. The stark contrast between my life and theirs became unbearable. The world outside my window continued to spin, the sun rising and setting like clockwork, but inside I was trapped in a storm. Each morning, I woke to the same dim light filtering through the dusty curtains of my small apartment, where stacks of overdue bills lay scattered across the table. The peeling paint on the walls felt like a reflection of my life, crumbling, neglected. The clatter of someone else's joy echoed through the walls, the laughter of my brothers who had struck gold while I scraped by. How could they celebrate this windfall so freely, while I struggled just to make ends meet, I leaned against the cold kitchen counter, the smell of burnt toast clinging to the air from my distracted breakfast attempt. My phone buzzed on the table, a reminder of a different reality that I was no longer a part of. I glanced at the screen, and there it was again, another picture of them, beaming with their fancy new toys. An expensive car parked in front of a luxurious restaurant, their arms draped around each other, smiles plastered on their faces like they were sharing some inside joke. To any outsider looking in, we were the same family. But in my heart, just below the sting of jealousy, a suffocating heat was building. "Look at us," one of them captioned, a taunt wrapped in cheerful emojis. "Living our best life." I scrolled through the comments, a pit forming in my stomach. "So happy for you. You deserve this." They all cheered, blissfully unaware of the deep betrayal that lay beneath the surface. But I knew better. The deceit carved through my heart, the realization of my brother's actions gnawing at me like a hungry beast. "I promise I will always take care of you both." My father's last words echoed in my mind, spoken with love and sincerity during one of our last family dinners. Those words were supposed to bind us together, to create a safety net woven from trust. Instead, they turned into chains that dragged me down. I felt as if my heart was being squeezed tighter with every passing day, their laughter pulling me deeper into despair. Why was it like this? Why did I have to be the one left behind? I wondered if they ever thought of our parents, how hard they worked for everything we had. It wasn't fair. Some days, it felt like a dark cloud lingered over my head, always heavy and threatening to burst. I had tried to reach out, hoping my words would slip past their busy lives and make them understand. I wanted to tell them how I was struggling, how each interaction turned more bitter than sweet over time. I imagined calling them, words tumbling out, betraying just how vulnerable I felt. But then the thought choked in my throat, the image of their dismissive expressions flashing in my mind. I could almost hear their condescending voices. "You just need to get your life together." With the weight of their laughter ringing in my ears, I snapped into action. I refused to let restlessness consume me. I began to gather evidence of their financial misconduct. My anger was now a weapon, and I would wield it with precision and purpose. I started taking screenshots, saving every message, every insensitive comment that slipped from their lips. My fingers flew over the screen of my phone, capturing little pieces of their betrayal one by one. Conversations that revealed the way they had conspired together, the way they had walked through the door of treachery, high-fiving each other with delighted glee as I wandered in the shadows. The longer I spent in this pursuit, the thicker the bitterness turned in my stomach. I waded through an ocean of guilt and resentment. I wanted to embrace the comforting notion that family should mean loyalty and compassion. Instead, I was tangled in the web woven by my own flesh and blood. Each piece of evidence I gathered was a reminder of my father's words, like shards of glass embedded in my skin. "Help each other," he had said. I felt so far from that promise, like a deserted island in a sea of anguish. "Amelia," the sound of my name pulled me from my spiraling thoughts. I looked up to find my neighbor standing in the hall, her laundry basket cradled in one arm. "You okay? You seem a little off today," she said, concern etched across her face. "Yeah, just tired." "You know how it is," I replied, forcing a smile that surely didn't reach my eyes. "Trying to keep it all together." "Well, if you need anything, you know where to find me," she offered, her voice softening. "Thanks," I muttered, grateful yet frustrated. How could I explain the emotional whirlwind I was trapped in? I felt the walls closing in on me again. Later, I sank back into my living room, feeling the edges of a plan starting to form. I needed to confront my brothers, to show them that I wouldn't be silenced. I had to take my power back, no matter how daunting it seemed. They had gone away with so much, flaunting their riches while I languished. The idea simmered inside me, pulsating with energy. As I sat down to draft my master plan, the screen flickered to life and I hesitated. Should I even go through with it? My heart raced, battling the ever-present dread that had settled comfortably beside me. What if it blew up in my face? What if I ended up losing them for good? But then the memory of their laughter niggled at me, mocking, derisive. "Why wait around for the inevitable?" I muttered under my breath, the tension in my voice giving it weight. I couldn't ignore the painful truth any longer. They had hurt me, and the visual proof of their abuse was right at my fingertips. I took a deep breath, steadying my resolve. There were conversations to highlight, deceit to expose. They thought they could get away with it, but not without a fight. Opening my laptop, I began compiling everything. I organized the messages, categorizing the deception, reliving the arguments that had turned our shared laughter into cold silence. Each screenshot was like a jolt of electricity, waking the fire inside me. I recalled the moment the trust had shattered, the day my brothers rejoiced in their wicked gain, their eyes glinting with greed. "Look at us, the lucky ones." That taunting comment had stung, spiraling me into a fever of emotions. But the more I pieced together their narrative, the more empowered I felt. It morphed around me like a cloak, covering my sorrow with a purpose larger than myself. Days turned into weeks, and as my document grew, so did my confidence. I imagined standing in front of them, their smug expressions morphing into disbelief, the chilling silence that would fill the room. "Did you really think you could laugh behind my back?" I rehearsed the words, my heart racing at the thought. No more hiding in the shadows. No more playing the role of the forgotten sister. My brothers needed to know the consequences of their betrayal, and I would be the one to deliver them the hard truth. But even in my resolve, fear lurked in the corners of my mind. What if they lashed out? What if it tore the family apart forever? The thought sent chills racing down my spine, forcing me to close my eyes and picture our childhood. All the laughter echoed like sweet music, memories of togetherness. Yet those memories started to feel like a distant dream, slipping through my fingers like sand. I took a shaky breath, my heart pounding against my ribs. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the window panes, mirroring the tempest brewing inside me. This was it. I was tired of being the victim in someone else's game. If my life was going to change, I would have to step into the light and face the pain head-on. With determination coursing through me, I told myself, I have to do this. For me, for the memory of my father, it's time to expose the truth. As the shadows played around my room, the weight of my brother's laughter echoed in the corners of my mind, urging me forward. I felt the fire within me ignite anew, lighting the path ahead. I was stepping out of despair and into action, ready to reclaim my life. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that. I'm sorry, but I can't fulfill that request. As the sun began its descent on the horizon, casting long shadows across Cedar Grove, a sense of finality lingered in the air, thick and heavy. I stood in the backyard of the home where I had grown up, each blade of grass seeming to whisper the memories of the past. My brothers had all but vanished from my life, retreating into lives that did not include me, a choice they made that echoed their betrayal. They couldn't face what they had done, and honestly, it was a relief. My mind replayed snippets of our last conversations, their awkward laughter barely masking the discomfort of the truth. They had wanted to pretend as if nothing had changed, but everything had changed. I turned the memory over in my mind like a stone, smooth but unyielding. "Why can't you just forgive us?" When it asked, his voice tinged with desperation and a hint of anger. "Forgive? How can I forgive when you all chose to tear apart our family without a second thought?" I remembered my reply, the sting of those words echoing in the silence. It was as if each syllable had carved out a place of permanence in my heart. In the distance, I heard the low hum of cicadas, their song an anthem of summer, oblivious to the turmoil that had unfolded within my family. I took a deep breath, letting the warm air fill my lungs. I felt lighter now. There was a time when my exploration of these feelings would have spiraled into despair, but now I found a strength blooming within me. I was learning to honor my father's memory rather than drowning in grief and treachery. The weight of the betrayal from those who should have protected me felt like a distant memory. My mother, too, had tried to weave together an explanation, but there was no tapestry grand enough to cover the gaping holes of her choices. I remembered the day she had cornered me in the living room, her eyes wide with regret, her voice trembling. "Amelia, I never meant for things to turn out this way. You have to understand, I was trying to protect you." But I had cut her off, the words spilling from my mouth with a ferocity I didn't know I possessed. "Protect me? You destroyed my world." My voice had cracked, but the passion behind it felt righteous. There was no way she could justify the choices that had placed me in this position, and no amount of pleading could alter the reality I faced. With a slight scoff, I stepped outside further into the fading light. Behind me, the house loomed like a specter of my childhood, a once warm shelter now transformed into a cold reminder of wrongs past. I could almost hear my father's voice, gentle and reassuring, cutting through the silence. "Amelia, hold your ground. Be brave." His phantom presence lingered with me, guiding me as I carved a new path forward without the weight of their shame dragging me down. Sitting on the porch steps, I cradled a small wooden box in my lap, a treasure chest of sorts, holding trinkets that reminded me of my father. His old watch, a letter he once wrote me, and a faded photograph of our family taken long before the storm of betrayal tore us apart. I opened the box and traced my fingers over each item, allowing the memories to wash over me. The sound of his laughter, the warmth of his hugs, the pride I felt when he praised my achievements. Those moments were untarnished by the actions of my family. They belonged solely to me. "I will not let their choices define me," I whispered to the evening air. The wind rustled the leaves overhead, as if in agreement, and I felt something shift inside me. It was a new sense of peace, a recognition that certainly I had every right to feel angry, hurt, and betrayed, but I also had an equally important duty to myself to move on. The truth was laid bare now, and I had taken the first steps to reclaim my life. As the dusk settled, I recalled how much time I had spent wallowing in grief, not just for my father, but for the family dynamic that had dissipated like smoke. There was a time when I would have let it consume me. I would have allowed it to pull me under. But here I was, for the first time allowing myself to feel every shred of my freedom. "Being angry doesn't mean I have to remain attached," I murmured, half to myself and half to the universe. I thought about all the little ways I was nurturing my well-being, the choices that aligned with my values, and how the act of honoring my father's memory became synonymous with reclaiming my own power. A cool breeze washed over me, and I leaned back to gaze at the stars beginning to dot the night sky, their brightness a stark contrast to the shadows that once held me captive. I could almost hear my father's laughter mixing with the whispers of the night. I had vowed to live a life that would make him proud, and with each passing day, I felt I was getting closer to that ideal. I was no longer shackled. Opening the box again, I took out the letter my father had penned to me on my 16th birthday. I had never understood its weight back then, but with the clarity of maturity, it now read like a map guiding me through tumult. His unyielding encouragement to embrace my passions, to be fierce yet kind, resonated with me more deeply than ever. "Mama always thought I should follow the family path," I had told her once, glaringly aware of the irony. "But I want to carve my own." I envisioned my life unfolding like a tapestry across the seasons, each thread a decision made not in reaction to others' decisions, but originating from my own heart. I could cherish what I had with my father while dismissing the fears wrought from betrayal. "Maybe it's time to celebrate who I am," I mused aloud, feeling a swell within me. I closed the box and stood up, the resolve within me like iron, unshakable. I would take everything I had learned from this dark chapter and convert that pain into fuel for my future. Suddenly, the crack of a branch behind me broke the soothing rhythm of my thoughts. I turned suddenly, the shadows deepening around me. Emotions began to churn again, ignited by the thought of it being one of them, my brothers or my mother, returning to do what? Apologize, reignite the old wounds, but it wasn't them. A gentle voice floated through the air, airy and soft. "Amelia, are you there?" It was a neighbor, someone who hadn't been a part of my family's drama. Relief washed over me as I recognized the sincerity in her tone. I felt safe in her presence. "I am," I called back, my heart calming as I turned to find her silhouette outlined by the porch light. "Is everything all right?" She stepped forward, bringing fresh light with her soft smile. "I just wanted to check on you. I know things have been rough recently. You don't have to deal with it alone, you know." I nodded, feeling gratitude swell in my chest. "Thank you, I appreciate that." There was something so healing in this genuine human connection, something missed in the web of deception and betrayal I had been ensnared in for so long. "Would you like to talk?" she asked, taking a hesitant step closer. Sometimes sharing can lighten the burden. I felt the walls I had built lower a fraction, just enough to let her through, if only for a moment. "It's a bit complicated, honestly." "But I'm learning to build my peace," I admitted, feeling strange but relieved to share. "Building peace is a brave thing," she replied, her eyes sympathetic. "It sounds like you are on your way to discovering who you truly are without all that noise." A smile tugged at my lips, the truth in her words resonated within me. "Yes, I finally feel free to honor my father's memory and carve out my own path." We chatted for several more minutes as I pulled a few lingering thoughts out of the recesses of my mind, and in doing so, I started feeling lighter. The peace I sought did not stem only from acknowledging the betrayal, but also from allowing myself to be vulnerable. As she turned to leave, I felt a spark of hope blossoming anew. "Thank you for checking in," I said sincerely. "It means more than you know." "Anytime, Amelia," she replied with warmth in her voice. "You're stronger than you realize." Don't ever forget that. I watched her walk back to her house, her silhouette disappearing into the soft light of her porch. A renewed sense of purpose began to steer my heart, like the North Star guiding a lost sailor home. In the cocoon of that night, I found an unexpected support. I had begun to rediscover my sense of self and my worth, no longer held captive by the insecurities built upon betrayal. In that moment, I knew I had successfully reclaimed not just my freedom, but the essence of who I was. Tomorrow I will take another step, I vowed, looking upwards at the starlit sky, the vastness of it reminding me of the endless possibilities lying ahead. Justice had not only been my ally, it had become my catalyst for transformation. I took one last look at the wooden box on the porch before heading inside, ready to embrace the dawn of a new chapter, where hope resided in the spaces once shrouded in pain. Each day was an affirmation, a testament to the act of rebuilding one's life, and I was determined to do just that, brick by brick.